Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Dr. Barkis Ophthalmology Tutorials. Today I will be discussing about the congenital anomalies of the eyelids. It is very important to know about these congenital anomalies of the eyelids because they could be the causes of your corneal ulcer, corneal diseases, dry eyes, or even the pseudosquints and also watering. So until and unless we know about these congenital anomalies, we may miss the causes for the above said conditions, and the treatment always remains incomplete without treating these lid abnormalities. And again, looking from the exam point of view, all these congenital anomalies are favorite 3-mark questions, and everything can be asked in your Viva questions. So let's begin. So the first topic is dystichiasis. So the question can be like, what is dystichiasis? Name few causes. Dystichiasis is nothing but an extra posterior row of eyelashes. So you can see here there is an extra posterior row of eyelashes which is occupying the site of the meibomian glands. So these meibomian glands open into the hair follicle as ordinary sebaceous glands. So thereby the major contribution to the tear film, that is the lipid layer, is hampered, leading to dry eyes. Again, if you observe, these eyelashes are directed vertically, unlike the normal eyelashes which are directed outwards. So these vertically directed eyelashes keep pricking the cornea, thereby leading to the corneal ulcer. You can see in this picture there is an obvious corneal ulcer secondary to the dystichiasis. Coming to the causes of dystichiasis, it can be congenital or it can be seen in stage of cicatrization of the chemical injuries, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, or even the ocular cicatricial pemphigoid. Coming to treatment, the epilation remains the treatment, but it will be temporary. So electroepilation or cryoepilation will be the permanent solution to dystichiasis. The next topic is coloboma of the eyelids. Coloboma can be defined as full thickness triangular gap. There is a full thickness triangular gap, as you can see here, a full thickness triangular gap in the tissue of the eye. The more common site is the upper eyelid, as it is shown in this picture. In that again, the junction of medial 1/3 and the lateral 2/3. If it occurs in the lower eyelid, the site will be the junction of lateral 1/3 and medial 2/3. So there can be just coloboma of the eyelids, or it can be associated with coloboma of the iris also, or even there can be coloboma of the choroid also. Coming to the causes of coloboma, it is due to incomplete closure of embryonic facial cleft, or sometimes it can be due to presence of the amniotic bands. And there are some associations of the coloboma with the mandibulofacial dystosis or even the golden hair syndrome. The symptom is usually the cosmetic problem and also the dryness of the anterior surface of the eye because it's not covering completely. And the treatment remains the plastic surgery, that is the lid reconstruction, where you are reconstructing the skin part, the tarsal layer, as well as the mucous membrane, that is the conjunctival part from the mucous membrane graft. I will be telling about the golden hair syndrome here only. It is also called as oculo-auriculovertebral syndrome. It is due to maldevelopment of the first visceral arch. And it has few components like the coloboma of the eyelid, as you can see here. There can be limbal dermoid, or even there can be preauricular tags. And it is associated with hemifacial microsomia, or even the cleft lip and the cleft palate. So you can see the preauricular tag here. So this constitutes the golden hair syndrome. Coming to the other components, there can be cleft lip and cleft palate. Also there can be fused or missed vertebrae. Moving on to cryptophthalmos. The meaning is hidden eyes. Crypto means hidden, ophthalmos is eyes. So cryptophthalmos is hidden eye. So the skin is continuous over the eyeball with the absence of the eyelids. As you can see, the skin is continuous over the eyeball with the absence of eyelids. And it can be complete as in this case, or it can be incomplete like this. And it can be associated with the maldevelopment of the underlying structures like cornea, sclera, or even there can be microphthalmos. The syndromic association with cryptophthalmos is the Fraser syndrome. Coming to microblepharon, as the name suggests, Micro is small. Micro is small. The blepharon means the eyelids. So there is small eyelids, as you can see. And it is most of the time associated with microphthalmos, that is small eyeball. And there can be anophthalmos, that is absence of the eyeball. I will tell something about the microphthalmos in this only. That is, it can be associated with congenital orbitopalpebral cyst, usually located in the inferior or the lower eyelid. That is about microphthalmos. Again, the symptoms are because of the dry eye, because of the incomplete closure. There can be lack of thalmus. Again, the treatment is the lid reconstruction. So coming to ablepharon. So divide the word here. A is absence, blepharon is the lid. So there is no eyelids. So there is absence of the eyelids, and there is a syndromic association called as ablepharon macrostomia syndrome. Okay. Coming to ankyloblepharon. Ankyloblepharon is nothing but there is adhesion of the lid margin. Okay, adhesion of the lid margin. It can be a small adhesion or it can be even the complete adhesion. So in case of small adhesions, there is risk of, even in case of the complete adhesion, the risk of amblyopia is more. So if it is very small, you can just dissect this part and free the eyelids. Thereby you are preventing the complication of amblyopia. Coming to the euroblepharon. Euroblepharon is nothing but horizontally widened interpalpebral aperture. Okay, the horizontal interpalpebral aperture is usually 28 to 30 mm. Here it is more than that. And you can see there is ectropion of the lower eyelid. Okay, so there is ectropion of the lower eyelid on the lateral side. So these are the components of euroblepharon. It can be unilateral or it can be bilateral. The more common site is the lateral part, as I told. And if severe, there can be lack of thalmus and even the exposure keratitis. Here, the eyelid pretarsal muscle and the skin rides over the lid margin. The eyelid pretarsal muscle and the skin rides over the lid margin. So, there is an extra fold of horizontal skin which stretches across the anterior lid margin. And these lashes are very peculiar. See, all these are vertically directed again, leading to the abrasion of the inferior half of the cornea. So it may disappear with the growth. If not, it should be surgically treated by Hott's procedure. That is, Hott's procedure is nothing but excision of a strip of skin here along with the underlying muscle and fixing this lid crease to the tarsal plate. Okay, that is called as Hott's procedure. So coming to epicanthus, it is nothing but a bilateral vertical folds of skin that extend from upper border or the lower lid across the medial canthus. Okay, so there are 4 types. Epicanthus palpebralis, where the fold is symmetrically distributed between the upper and the lower eyelid across the medial canthus. Epicanthus tarsalis, where the folds originate in the medial aspect of the upper eyelid and extend on the medial canthus up till the medial canthus. This is Epicanthus tarsalis. Epicanthus inversus, it starts from the lower eyelid and then extends onto the medial canthus. Okay, and this is more commonly associated with one more syndrome called as blepharophimosis syndrome, Epicanthus inversus. Coming to Epicanthus superciliaris, here the folds arise almost from the brow and extends downwards up to the medial canthus. So all these epicanthus conditions are treated by YV-plasty or the Z-plasty. Remember, the surgical procedures are YV-plasty or Z-plasty if it doesn't disappear with growth. Coming to the blepharophimosis syndrome, here the palpebral fissure appears to be very small. As you can see, both the vertical as well as the horizontal interpalpebral aperture is small. And there will be moderate to severe degree of the eyelitosis. There can be telecanthus and there can be epicanthus inversus. All these are components of blepharophimosis syndrome. That is, to repeat, a smaller palpebral fissure, moderate to severe symmetrical ptosis with a poor LPS function, telecanthus, epicanthus inversus, and there can be poorly developed nasal bridge as well. and hypoplasia of the superior orbital rim can be seen. These are the components of blepharophimosis syndrome. So coming to the inheritance pattern, it is autosomal dominant type. There are two types, that is blepharophimosis 1 and 2. In 1, it is associated with premature ovarian failure, whereas blepharophimosis 2 syndrome is not associated with premature ovarian failure. The gene located is in the FOXL2 gene of chromosome 3. It may disappear with age. Otherwise, it needs multiple lid surgeries to correct the epicanthus by YV-plasty or Z-plasty. Again, the ptosis correction need to be done. So, it is a multiple stage surgery for blepharophimosis syndrome. And the remaining topics of the congenital anomalies, that is ptosis, ectropion and entropion, I will be discussing in detail in further videos. Hope this video was useful. If you have learned something out of my presentation, please do subscribe and press the bell icon for the further notification. Thank you so much.